Thank you so much, Marquise, for that wonderful welcome. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited to share some insights from my new book, F the Fairy Tale, with you, and also to share my friend circle. I have been blessed with some of the most amazing friends that also happen to be love experts. I have a star-studded panel to introduce you to today, and we're going to be talking about the first of the 4 dating myths that you are going to learn about tonight, and also when you get your copy of F the Fairy Tale. So first, we have Jonathan Aslay. He is a midlife dating and relationship coach, and he is expanding into a deeper, essential philosophy of what it truly means to love. He has written a book all about self-love. It's called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? It's packed with fun and engaging spiritual and personal growth practices. He's also a YouTube celebrity. Some of you have probably been watching his videos. He has also a dynamic midlife love mastery mentorship program that inspires hundreds of people daily around the world. Please help me welcome in Jonathan Aslay.
Hey,
Thank you for
thank
being
you,
here.
Damona. We're the blessed ones that we get to know you.
Oh shucks. Well, we're gonna see all the wisdom dropped here in a minute. We also have Julie Spira, who I can crown as my very first friend in the dating and relationship biz. We met doing online dating coaching many years ago, like back when people were like, "Wait, is online dating a thing? Is coaching a thing?" Yes, Julie and I were there. She's an award-winning dating coach, online dating expert, internationally known best-selling author, and she has almost 3 decades of experience in the biz and a passion for everything digital. You've seen her on Access Hollywood, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Boston Globe, Cosmopolitan. I could go on and on, but let's just welcome her in. Julie Spira, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
And she's wearing her signature red. She always wears red for interviews, and it's fabulous. Also wearing red, also fabulous, is my friend Lauren Francis. She's known as the Flirt Fairy. She's an author and dating expert and the creator of the Love Magnet Makeover. She has been called the Doctor of Love by Extra, the Flirt Fairy by Victoria's Secret, the Man Whisperer on Bravo. You've seen her all over, from Elle to Glamour to Women's Health. She does Love Magnet makeovers for women, and she's done some of those transformations on TV. She has an amazing book called Dating, Mating, and Manhandling, an ornithological guide to men. I need to look that one. And also, she's one of the reasons we're even here today, because she's one of the people who kicked me in the butt and said, Damona, you got to write a book. Get to your computer and get to work. So thank you so much, Lauren, for kicking me in the butt and also for being here with us live.
I was not wearing stilettos. Wait, I was actually.
And girl, it hurt. No. All right. The book is broken into what I see as the 4 biggest dating myths and the 4 pillars of long-term compatibility. So each half hour today, we're going to be talking about a different myth and a different pillar. I structured the book based on the myths that I see coming up for people in chronological order of the dating process. So we're going to start at the beginning today. We're going to start with well, I say the mindset phase of dating comes before you've even put up a dating profile or gone on any online dates. So with that, I see that the list myth is a real challenge for people. And when I say the list myth, I mean that we're all dating kind of checking boxes. Not everyone, of course. There's a lot of people watching right now that have done the work to really clarify what they're looking for. But still, I know I dated by list for a long time, and I'm sure many of the people that you coach and clients you have done that as well. And the funny thing is, I see, and I talk about this in F the Fairy Tale, that a lot of people say that they have a list, but then when I read the lists, a lot of the lists say the same thing. What do you find? I'm going to start with you, Jonathan. What do you see on the list all the time?
Well, since I coach women, it's usually how tall a person is. Like that's like probably the number one thing I see on the list is the height of a person. Certainly when it comes to examining men, I would think financial status is up there as well. I mean, that's kind of cave person, way of approaching it. The person with the biggest cave probably could take the best care of you. Those are like the two primary ones I see. Well, in midlife, it's also do they have hair? And but the
And
list
how
can
do
go on.
men
I'll let
feel
my
about
contemporary.
that? How do men feel about that, Jonathan? Because I know
You know,
maybe I
I
had hair as a requirement when I first met my husband, but
yeah.
we've been together for 20 years and the hair requirement has had to be let's say has had to be softened a little bit.
I'm kind of not the right person to ask because my parents blessed me with the two most important qualities a woman's looking for, man. I'm 6'2" and have a full head of hair, and I don't color my hair either. And I'm a boomer.
I saw you post about that and I wish I could say the same, but but you know how it is for ladies, it's different.
Yeah.
Lauren, I'm going to go over to you. I wonder, are you seeing the same list? Are you seeing those same requirements, or do you feel like it's shifted any in recent years?
That's a great question. So first of all, I'm so delighted to be here. I'm so proud of you. Writing a book is such a big and arduous task. Everybody wants to write one and most people don't. And you got it published and it's so great. Everybody, you're going to love it. So, the thing that's changed about the lists, I do coach women I'm a coach for primarily single women who are looking for love and help them launch online. And one of the first things I do is have them write a list because I want to see what is in their mind. And one of the things that's gotten added to these lists is definitely politics. Politics are now on the list. They weren't on the list before. And in this way, they actually were never on anybody's list. They were just, you're just either Republican, moderate, liberal. And so this has become a really important thing. And I do want to say the funny thing about height, I always say some of the best men in the world are literally getting overlooked online. So I really do feel that what I try to do, I actually call it the frosting in the cake. I have people this is a tip. Can I give a tip?
Of course, please.
Yes.
Everybody get your pens out, start writing.
So I have people, I call it the frosting in the cake. I have people make a list of everything they could possibly want, even if it sounds outlandish, and then get a highlighter and highlight everything you have to have. So the things that you have to have are your cake, and the frosting is all the stuff that would be delicious. And I always say that you don't want to eat frosting right out of the can. Sometimes you do. And you don't want to have cake without any frosting. So most of the time people have expectations that are too low or are not specific.
Mm-hmm. I
do some other fun magic around, what a heart healing relationship would look like.
Yeah.
I do sadly have to plug in my computer.
Okay. Plug in your computer.
I
co-sign everything you just said. And I love the cake and frosting. I'm not a frosting person, guys. I don't know. I don't know if there's other frosting people, but I'll just go for the cake, just straight up the cake. But I want to go over to our digital matchmaker, Julie Spira, because Julie, I know you've coached people on dating apps for a long time. And I hear a lot as someone like, I've worked behind the scenes with a lot of dating apps, as I know you have too. I've worked with Match and OkCupid and Bumble. And I hear a lot from my podcast listeners and clients that people are like, it's dating apps' fault. Dating apps are making me choose the little boxes and they're making me date by list. What do you say to that, Julie? Do you think dating apps have led us to date by list more?
There's a balancing act. Yes, the lists are never going to go away. I mean, you always ask everybody in the beginning, what's your wish list? And then we try to hone it down. When you look at the dating apps, you have the opportunity in your bio with the character count to describe yourself. And traditionally it was called About Me. And it's really an opportunity to use, the words, the keywords to describe yourself in a way that doesn't look like every other profile. Then you go to the checkbox of lists. But by the way, you don't have to check every box. If you're uncomfortable about checking something about politics, and yes, that has become the number one deal breaker over what used to be smoking, dating a smoker was a deal breaker, you can just ignore it. So I ask people, how do you feel about this on the list? Do you have to talk about it? Is it that important? Is it a deal breaker or not? And don't forget to use that digital real estate and write something descriptive about yourself that doesn't have every other cliche in it. Like I like to go on beach walks and, dress from black tie to jeans and, all those cliches that make everybody yawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we end up reading a lot of the same things in profiles. And I know everyone watching right now has had that experience too from the other side. And we're like, why do all of these profiles look the same? We like to help you differentiate your profiles from others. But I kind of want to look at it from the flip side, Julie. I've been hearing also a lot of red flags, like where we have our list for what we want, but we also have our list for what we cannot accept and the red flags. And a lot of the dating apps now allow you to mark deal breakers. And I have a story in the book called Death by Dating Deal Breaker, where when you select the deal breakers, sometimes that removes people from your pool. What are your feelings about deal breakers? And when you're using an app specifically, how many do you think are useful and how many are limiting your pool too much?
I am not a fan of a deal breaker unless smoking really happens to be a deal breaker for somebody, because you are limiting your pool. So when you have this big wide world of 400 million potential singles, and then you're like, that's a deal breaker, that's a deal breaker, that's a deal breaker, it just tells me that you're very difficult. You're not easy to get along with. You won't negotiate. There's a balancing act between, like, is it really a deal breaker, or is it just, you would prefer not to date somebody that lives more than 100 miles away or 3 miles from your house.
Yeah. So Jonathan, I'm going to go to you.
Yeah.
How can people reframe this? If they're like, I hear what Julie's saying, and maybe that's not a deal breaker, but on the flip side, like what I always hear on the Dates and Mates podcast is, how do I know if I'm settling?
Well, I have a different perspective on this, and I just want to throw this out for everyone for a second, because to some degree, like Julie said, there's not 400 million here in the United States, but there's well over 100 million singles. I feel like narrow your search down from one perspective, so you eliminate all those people that probably wouldn't be on your desired list anyway. Narrow it down and then focus in that arena at first. Okay. Now, if you've exhausted 20 million people or 5 million people or 3 million people, then you might need to expand it. But I'm actually here to suggest maybe it makes sense to narrow things down at first so you can see within that pool, because the hard part now is we're swimming in a sea of so many human beings. It's hard. And by the way, your thumbs can't swipe fast enough, to go through all the people. Maybe it's best to actually narrow things down for a moment, see within that pool, and if you find someone, great, and if not, then open it up after that.
I would say it's a balance, right? It's like you have to be specific enough, but not so specific you're ruling people out. Lauren, you were starting to say that you have ways of helping people really clarify what they're looking for without giving us all of your flirt fairy magic, which people are going to get access to after this forum. And there are gifts from everybody and links to everybody that you see here. Give us like a little taste though, Lauren.
A taste of
what we can do to clarify that more effectively of like what should be on the list, and how do you help people get into
such a great
making a list that's better, it's going to better serve them.
So the lists are for a couple of reasons. One of them is for, the writing the profile. right? So there's a profile list. They generate lists and try to make it easy for you. And I'm kind of, in marketing, they say she who speaks to everyone speaks to no one. So when you have a niche, it's good. It feels authentic to the end user, right? It's not a general, you're not a moo-moo. That's what I always say to women. You're not a moo-moo. So it's like, you're not one size fits all. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the list is also really good for actual dating. And it's for man selection, it's for, partner selection. And you don't need to date a million people. People get dating fatigue. So I'm actually a fan of being more specific about who you're dating, having more qualified leads. The profile should ideally screen people out as well as magnetizing them in, because because what happens is if you start talking to a lot of randos, right? And if you have a lot of riz, like the kids say, if you've got a lot of charisma, right? And you're pulling a lot of people in, people they just pass out. It's just too overwhelming. So you don't want to have romantic OCD or romantic ADD. You want to be clear and focused about who you're looking for. So what the lists serve to do is to online bounce people out if you're doing it effectively, pull the right people in, and then your internal list really is about asking very targeted and qualified questions to see if people are lining up with what you really importantly talk about later on is values, like those big tent poles of relationship.
Oh, Lauren has read the book, y'all. She's dropping gems, F the Fairy Tale Gems, which, by the way, you can pre-order now. I'm going to go over to you, Julie, because I want to get some of those, like, as we're sort of screening people and figuring out how to whittle that pool down. I would love to get even some specific things that you recommend to clients to prepare for that process. And then also, the other thing that's changed so much since you and I started doing this is the speed of dating. And I see that it used to be when clients would come to me for a dating profile, maybe they were going on maybe one date a quarter. And then maybe we could get them up to a couple dates a month. And that was really good. Now I feel like if people aren't going on 2 to 3 dates a week, they feel like they've failed. And then that has like amplifying effects, because when you feel like you're not dating, you're not having a good dating experience, you're not desired, or you're not meeting the right people, then it becomes frustrating and it becomes a big lift. So how can we screen our dates more effectively using a list that's better suited for us?
Well, you brought up an excellent point. I mean, there is an anxiety disorder, whether it's a dating anxiety disorder, online dating anxiety disorder. It's a real thing. People get anxious when they get overwhelmed, and then they get upset if they're not going on 3 dates a week. Well, why not? I hired a coach. I joined a dating app. I signed up for 6 months. Why am I not going on? Why am I not hearing from 5 guys a day? And why am I not going on 3 to 5 dates a week? It's exhausting going on 3 to 5 dates a week if you're going to be prepared for your date, and you should be prepared. You should be your absolute best on your first date, and you should not, be feeling like, oh my gosh, this date's over, I've got to run to the next one. You've got to give that person the quality time that they need. And I'm seeing the people rushing into the speed, as you were mentioning, Damona. It used to be, oh, I'll get back to them in, a day or two. I'm out with friends, I'm out with family. Now there's an anxious feeling. If I don't get back to this person, somebody else will, and then they won't be available tomorrow. And it's created this very anxious feeling. I want people to take a deep breath. I'd like you to respond within 24 hours. If you can respond within 3 to 6 hours, even better, because they'll get a push notification. But if you're truly busy and you can't get back to someone, don't wait 3 weeks, but don't wait 3 days either.
Julie, is it really true? Like, is it factual? I hear all the time that the paradox of choice. There's so many options online. Nobody is making decisions now. And like you just said something really, really poignant about how there's this feeling that if I don't respond right away, someone else will. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of people carrying right now, this feeling of like, I got to grab it before it's gone. But is that really what's happening? Or is that just what we're feeling internally?
I think it's happening for people that have a tendency to feel anxious about things in general. I think if somebody doesn't have that personality and they do take things methodically and they are willing to sleep on things, they won't feel that same feeling of, if, like, my shelf life is going to expire in 6 to 12 hours. No, it's not. There are a lot of people out there, but there's more than one person for each and every one of you. So if this person rides off in the sunset with somebody else, don't give up hope like that was your last chance at finding love.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions that say like, well, does this mean I'm destined to be, I literally just got this one. Somebody said, does this mean I'm destined to be alone with my dog for the rest of my life? And it's like, well, that's a big extreme from like, this relationship didn't work out to I'm alone for the rest of my life. And like, I like to live in that in-between phase. Lauren, I saw you nodding. When I was talking about this paradox of choice and is it real? Is it not real? What did you want to say?
Well, I do feel high quality people, especially high quality men, don't stay online long. They find somebody and then they get off the site. So it is true. It is true. And high quality women often do the same thing. So I think that there are certain, and it also, I think it's an age thing also. I think that the older that men that are over 50, 60, 70, they find one woman and they just stop, right? That they want to date. It's like the one at a time gal plan, right? It's just one person at a time. And so if you don't have a speed of implementation, there are so many options coming in that people do move on. Now, the great news is there are so many options. So online dating is like musical chairs. It's just who's there when the music stops. So just like there are many options for men, there are many options for women. So I do think there's something to it. The other thing, though, that is also real is that a lot of people are busy and have lives. So, I will have clients who, I literally had a client who was like, oh my God, there's nobody today. There's nobody online. Oh my, she is deleting every single person that was in her inbox, every single person. And, she said, oh, I can't contact him. He wrote to me 3 weeks ago. I was like, oh, you can write to somebody who wrote to you a year ago, as long as they're online. There is no time online.
Yeah.
So just pretend. You never have to say, I'm sorry, I was busy. You just go, oh, hi there. What a delightful message. How are you? So, and they will respond. There is no time. So don't try to hop on it. But if you can't, just get back to people whenever you feel like it. And they will do the same with you. So don't take it personally if people are not responding, unless they unmatch with you. And then goodbye, good riddance. Next.
Yeah. I know it's hard not to take it personally, but I think everyone's hearing here that the kind of from the love expert view, what it really looks like when you step back. Since we made some declarations about men, I'm of course going to go to the man on the panel in just a second, but I wanted to let everyone who's just joining us know that you can submit questions. I see now a Q&A. Somebody already has submitted, an anonymous attendee, but you should see a question option in the bottom of your Zoom here. If you're watching us on Zoom, go ahead and click there if you have a question that you want to have answered on the forum. And in the meantime, I'm just going to launch a little poll because I'm curious to know, we've got people who've signed up from all over the world. Just tell me, where are you at? I hope I have like all of the options, and I know I'm from the Midwest, so don't get mad that I only put Western US and Eastern US. Just pick one. Which time zone are you in? Which do you most identify with? Pick the location you most identify with. I'm just curious where everybody is from. And we will get to the chat in just a second, but I'm going to give Jonathan a chance to let us know what is happening in the male mind as it relates to everything Lauren was just saying.
Well, with respects to, whether we call them high value or not, I'm not really sure I even know what that means anymore. I will say that men, as they age, I I tend to find if they're emotionally healthy men, then they prefer to date one person at a time. If a person is emotionally broken, they're oftentimes dating multiple people. Maybe they're uncertain to what they want. Maybe they've just come off a contentious relationship, a contentious divorce. Maybe they've got issues going on in their life. So if we qualify a person based on if they're emotionally grown up as high quality and a person who's emotionally wounded as not high quality, then I will say it depends on which bucket they fall in. Because a person who's an emotional grown up who clearly wants a significant relationship in their life, they prefer to date one person at a time. They also prefer responsiveness. I will tell you that if a person isn't responsive, that could be an indication that that person is emotionally not doing so well. Because I don't care how busy you are, my phone butt dials 5 times a day. So we have a capacity to check in with someone. And I think it's actually rather shameful, that's my choice, is when you don't act in a responsive manner, especially if you've engaged in conversation with someone. I believe responsiveness leads to more successful relationships.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think it's so individual, and I think things are shifting as well, because the timeline that people had before, like, I agree with you, Lauren, that there's no time. You can always restart a thread if there's interest there. But I do see that the speed has changed of dating and just the availability of options, which ultimately I think is for the good of all dating. But it does sort of complicate things. Just to kind of go back to what Julie was saying, it does add anxiety sometimes to the dating experience. So I'm just going to share the results of our poll here. We have mostly people from the Western US. I live in California now. We have 45% from the Western US, 35% from the Eastern. We have folks from Canada, from Europe, from Asia, and Australia. Wow, that's a lot of time zones. Thank you so much for being here, all of you guys. We're going to get to some of the questions, and then our next panel is starting imminently. So we're going to have time for one question. I got one that was submitted before. So here we go. Carol says, I find that being over 70, finding compatible men locally has not happened. On the dating sites, they're from all over the country. I wasn't even thinking about that when I put up the poll, but there you go. And that makes it a little bit more complicated. What do you suggest? I attend local events and keep my eyes open. Also, let people know I'm available. Julie, you're the digital matchmaker. Briefly, do you think that for someone over 70, online dating should be a part of their dating portfolio? Any way to filter out those that are not local?
Online dating should absolutely be part of your portfolio, whether you're dating online and offline. You're just dating, do both. And if you meet somebody in the grocery store, how wonderful. But I don't believe that distance is a barrier to finding love. There are men who are retired and financially secure who will move across the country, who will move across the continent. I had a client who met someone who was in Paris and he was in California. She moved. He first visited her in Paris and she moved there happily married. I am watching people that are moving all of the time if they find that right connection. So don't be so set in, oh, they need to live within, one freeway from me, because when you meet that right person, they'll find a way to get to you.
Yes, 100%. And I have so many clients also that have met and married across the country, outside of the country. There's a way to do it. Of course, I talk about it in F the Fairy Tale, how to do it effectively, but you can also learn so much about online dating from Julie Spira. And everyone who's registered for this event, you're going to get a link to the replay. And in that replay, you're also going to have all the gifts from our amazing panelists. So Julie has given you Swiping Right, the cyber dating expert guide to finding love on your mobile phone. And it will help you with swipe fatigue. And there's so much there. So look out for that gift. We have from Jonathan. Jonathan I said he's a YouTube celebrity. You got to check it out. Go watch him on YouTube. We'll put a link in the replay page to Jonathan's YouTube. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today, Jonathan. And also Lauren Francis. Remember, we were talking about the Dating, Mating, and Manhandling, an Ornithological Guide to Men ebook. You're going to get it. Well, there's a physical book, but you're going to get access to the ebook just by attending this live stream. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your insights on the list myth.